Hi kids, I'm Coach Cecelia, and I hope you're healthy and safe at home, and I hope you're playing some chess. I know we lost a couple of classes at the end of the session, but fortunately, Inland Chess can put these classes up online. So that's what I'm here for. I'm going to start you off with some lessons. Hi kids, we're going to do our second lesson on tactics today. Remember the first lesson was pin. And remember that what I told you that a tactic was a move. It was an active move, and also it was an attacking move. So what we're going to look at today is a fork. A fork is a move where a piece is attacking more than one of your opponent's pieces. I'm going to use the example of a knight. A knight is my favorite piece as an example of a fork, because a fork with a knight you just don't ever see coming. You're playing a game and you think you're doing well, and your opponent makes a move, and you look at the board and you go, oh my, that knight is forking 3 of my pieces. How did I miss that? Well, that's the thing about knights. Knights are sly and tricky, and they get to a square, and because they're not directly in front of a piece, you don't think that they're being attacked. So let's take a look at an example of a knight fork. I'm white, and my knight is sitting here on e6, and it is white's turn, and white says, oh wow, what do I have here? And moves the knight to c7. Now, c7 with the knight is attacking 3 pieces. It's checking the king, it's attacking the rook, and it's attacking the queen. When you have a knight fork, if you can get one of the pieces attacked being the king, a check on the king, you know that you are going to do really well in terms of material, because you're going to win a piece of material. So the king, in this example, has to move. So let's say it moves. It can't protect any of these. And the knight is going to take the queen, the most powerful piece on the board. So you can see how effective a knight fork is. It can attack more than one piece. It can attack more than 2 pieces. My second favorite fork is the pawn fork. The pawn fork is another type of fork, like the knight, that kind of sneaks up on you if you're not paying attention. Take a look at this example I have on the demo board. You can see that black has set up their bishop and their knight so that they are on the same rank, a square apart. This type of situation, it's not that you have to not put them there, but you have to be very aware that your opponent might fork you. So in this case, white can. White moves the pawn to d5 and forks, attacks both the bishop and the knight. Let's take a look at this again. The pawn moves and forks both the bishop and the knight. The knight and the bishop are minor pieces worth 3. The pawn is worth 1. The pawn is going to capture one of them. Depending on if the knight moves away, the pawn captures the bishop. If the bishop even moves to protect the knight and recaptures the pawn, so what? The white ends up with more material. So you can see that you have to be aware of where your pieces are on the board so that a pawn fork isn't made on you. But you also have to be very aware of the position of the pieces of your opponents so that you can take advantage of a pawn fork. So you can take advantage of any fork. Okay. We've taken a look at 2 forks, the knight fork and the pawn fork. But all pieces can fork, even the king. So let's take a look at forks that the bishop the rook, and the queen can do. Let's look at the queen first. The queen here attacks 3 pieces. It checks the king, it attacks the knight, it attacks the rook. The bishop is attacking 3 pieces. It's forking 3 pieces. It attacks the knight on e3, it attacks the knight on b6, it attacks the rook on a1. So it forks 3 pieces. This white rook forks the bishop on c8 and the knight on b6, but it also pins. Remember our last lesson we looked at pins? Well, here's an example of the rook pinning the bishop to the king. It's an absolute pin because, of course, the bishop can't move away. So you see here the queen, the rook, and the bishop are forking more than 1 piece. Let's take a look at the very last example of a fork, and that's very rare, but it's the king. Let's take a look in this case how it helps white create a draw. Black is up in material and looks like it's winning, but black makes a fatal mistake and moves its knight to g6 to check the king. The king then moves to h5, and as you can see, it forks the bishop and the knight. The knight moves away, king gets the bishop. Bishop moves away, king gets the knight. And now you have a draw. In summary, I want you to be aware that forks are very, very effective, and you will come to use forks a lot in your games. But at the same time, you have to be aware of your position of your pieces so that your opponent's pieces don't fork you. Well, I hope you enjoyed our chess club sessions online. I know it's not quite the same as having a chess club at the school, because you can't ask your coaches if you have any questions or any problems. But if you do, you want to know something about any of that you see on the video, email Inland Chess and we'll answer any of your questions. As well, you want to continue playing chess. Continue playing at home with your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad. Go online and play in lichess.org. If you're on Chess Kid, go to Chess Kid and do puzzles and do videos. You do all sorts of opportunities to still continue with your chess. As well, awards will be handed out and parents will be notified as to when that's going to happen. So until then, be safe and play some chess.